All right, welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Line of Scrimmage. I'm your host, Kings here, joined by my partner, as usual, Coach Boar, Montana, the GOAT. And everybody, before we get into this, make sure to check us out on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter.
Let's get into it. The Orange Bowl Thursday night in Miami. Notre Dame 27, Penn State 24. What a game this actually turned out to be. I think it was kind of everything we had envisioned it would be. Quarterback play, very, very, very mid. We kind of expected that, though. If you checked out our latest video, we ranked the top 4 quarterbacks in order. Let's start with Penn State, the losers of this game. Feeling terrible right now, as you could probably guess. I thought to start the game, their game plan was to get outside and attack the outside early. Had a bunch of screens, end around screens, outside zone, counter, whatever the case may be. I thought that's what they were trying to do. According to the stats, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton had double the yards that Love and Price did in this game. Penn State was able to get into their game plan, what they wanted to do. They just really couldn't convert where they needed to, especially on third down. I thought the first half was okay for them. I thought they had a better game plan than Notre Dame did, but I think Notre Dame kind of survived that. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts exactly. I was really going to focus on really the defensive side of the ball. The offense kind of let me down a little bit. They had good momentum building up, and then they just fizzled out. Their defense came to play, especially in that first half there. I mean, the biggest thing I noticed there is that they were constantly getting Riley Leonard under pressure the entire time. And look, I'm not going to act like Riley Leonard is this godsend of a quarterback. He's good. He's a D1 quarterback, but you get him under pressure, he doesn't have the weapons that he can just quickly get that ball out to. I thought that was key to throwing off Notre Dame's offensive rhythm early on. We already know that Penn State's going to be keyed in on the run game, and they're going to do quite a bit with that there. Late in the first quarter, the pressure got to him, threw an interception, gave Penn State the ball at midfield. Now, Penn State really didn't do a whole lot with that, but they were starting to get in Riley Leonard's head early on with how the defense is playing against the run game. We know Notre Dame's not going to throw the ball. It was kind of lights out. It felt like it was going to be one of those just suffocating games where, all right, Penn State, you scored, and, well, here you go. Ball game's over, but that was absolutely not the case at all. Throughout that first half, the offenses weren't really doing a whole lot there. We saw some Tyler Warren show, throwing the ball, running the ball. Like, Tyler Warren was the entire offense of Penn State. It was quite a sight to see. Reminds me of, George Kittle, just one of those tight ends that just loves to play football. You can just tell this dude is just a football guy. I think the biggest problem with Penn State was that they tried out the run game and it would work, and then something would go, they would get stopped, they would get stuffed on one of those plays, and then they just go right to the pass game and do nothing. Penn State, we know throughout the entire game, did not have a single reception yard from a wide receiver that entire game, and when you're playing like that, you're not going to win many football games. We would know. I think one of the key turning points was actually at the end of that first half. When Leonard had to go out into concussion protocol, in came Steve Angeli, and this dude just had confidence. Went down, threw quick balls, didn't force anything, orchestrated a beautiful drive to get Notre Dame on the board. He did everything that they couldn't do in that first half up until that point, and I think that really gave Notre Dame momentum going through into the second half, saying, all right, we know there is a space to attack this Penn State defense. Let's go and take it while we can. That's my thoughts on really the first half. Wasn't nothing anything too exciting. The second half is where things really started to take off.
You kind of touched on it a little bit. I want to go back to it a little bit further. This concept of last 4, first 4. Okay, you'll hear it a lot from coaches. Notre Dame, in the last 4 minutes of the first half, scored 3 points. Okay, they got them on the board, like you said. In the first 4 minutes of the second half, they scored a touchdown. If you remember against Georgia, what happened in the last 4 minutes of that first half, and then what happened in the first 4 minutes of that second half. They scored 2 touchdowns. Actually, it's 17 points, I think. Notre Dame is doing everything possible that it can in terms of managing situations and obviously managing quarterback situations where Riley Leonard gets hurt. In comes Steve Angeli. He's throwing easy swing passes, easy slants. Those are easy reads. Okay, those are reads that anybody knows. You don't have to figure out a coverage to throw a slant or to throw a swing pass. Those got easy yards. They get 3 points, come back out of half, and all of a sudden, it looks like they can start running the ball. And that was due to all of a sudden they're using the outside zone. They're using the counter. They're basically out Penn Stating Penn State. That's what Penn State was trying to do in the first half. Leonard was okay in this game. He made a couple throws that were needed. He made a couple runs that were needed with his legs. I remember texting you, midway through the game, like Leonard, he's basically guaranteed 4 yards every run. Like he's not taking a negative run. He can get sacked at times. Obviously, Abdul Carter, absolute dog. I think he had like 5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He disrupted many passes that were thrown. Basically double teamed all night on an injured shoulder, which I mean, he's just like Micah Parsons, honestly. Third down conversions were the key in this game. Penn State was 3 of 11 on third down. The easiest way I can bring this to you is first down, third down efficiency. If you can get yards on first down, that means that you are going to set yourself up for the second and third down play. If you don't get yards on first down, you're going to have to pass on second down, pass on a third and long. And that's where, as we've seen in this game, Drew Aller is not comfortable doing. Okay. He was 12 of 23, 0 touchdowns and an interception at the end that we all saw cost him the game. Okay. He shouldn't have thrown it. We all know that. Whatever. Like I said, third downs, for some reason or another, maybe you could call it the luck of the Irish, Notre Dame was able to convert on third down and long all night for some reason. They finished the game 11 of 17 on third down, which is insane.
One of my first notes I took was, Notre Dame needs to have either some more explosive plays or they need to have just something consistent that they can start off with early in the second half. They started opening up that passing game, running those quick slant patterns, letting Riley Leonard scramble when needed to because it's automatic. It's automatic dude to dog. He's going to go out and get his. One thing I really wish Penn State would have done throughout that second half was really expand on that run game and really lean into it because they were winning the line, at least earlier in the game. And it felt like they kind of just strayed away from that and started giving the ball into Drew Aller's hand when they really didn't need to have the ball in his hands at that time. They had the lead or they were tied up. They started trying to force things and really ended up costing them the game.
I will say this about Penn State. I feel like it was very easy to tell that Notre Dame changed their game plan going into the second half, whereas Penn State, it felt like they were trying to do the same thing that was working in the first half. Notre Dame makes a counter adjustment at halftime, and Penn State doesn't make any counter adjustments. It's a little different when, hey, a player comes back to the sideline, you tell them, okay, hey, look for this next time, versus get the whole team on the same page when you go into halftime, have them all look at a play or whatever the case may be. It's a little different when it's just like seeing Penn State not make an adjustment and all of a sudden Notre Dame switches back momentum when they already had momentum coming out of halftime because they'd scored the field goal. They'd actually scored for once and they get the ball back. I wrote down here the score. It's kind of like basketball. You know how basketball, they say like basketball is a game of runs. Okay. It was Penn State 10-0. Then it was 17-10 Notre Dame. Then it was 24-17 Penn State. And then the final score ended up being 27-24 Notre Dame. It was a 17-point swing, a 14-point swing, and then a 10-point swing. Okay, all in the sense of the game where it was never really back and forth. It was more who has momentum at the time.
I think what really lost Penn State this game was that Drew Aller, unfortunately, was just missing the big-time plays. He'd make throws that should have been routine. He forced some passes. I know they had a couple of them that were, hey, here's a touchdown right here, and the throw is just off the money, and now you're stuck in a worse situation. A couple of them ended up in interceptions. Some of them should have been picked off. There were flags thrown that were picked off. I mean, there was multiple times where why are we throwing that ball? Would have been the main question is, why are we throwing that ball into triple coverage? Why are we missing this quick swing pass? Why are we missing guys on the shark? Like, it's just stuff that had to be hit, wasn't being hit, and unfortunately that cost them the game.
Let's talk about the kick that sealed the game. Mitch Jeter, okay? 7 of 8 in the playoff. This guy looks like a lock right now, okay? If you remember, he may or may not have been part of the reason why they had lost to Northern Illinois early in the season. So they were unsure that they could trust him going into the playoff. And I think you found your guy here. I was kind of nervous for this guy just because of his history. Um, Kind of like right down the middle. So, whatever the case may be.
Oh,
But
early on, it looked like it was swinging right, and you're like, "Ah,"
yeah,
and then it just cuts
exactly.
right back in.
That is Notre Dame's first championship appearance since 2013. If you remember the Manti Te'o era, we will see if they can make it tough against the team we're going to talk about next. Ohio State 28, Texas 14 in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas. Let's talk about it. Texas made this more of a game than I thought it would be. I did think it would be a closer game, but I thought it would be more high scoring. Ohio State's defense, probably the key in this game, especially for a Texas offense that we know to be good. However, as soon as they hit the red zone, all of a sudden look like the 2021 Iowa Hawkeyes. Let's start with Texas. Beginning of the game, I kind of thought their game plan was to do what they've always done, and that's get their guys in space, and the guys that they know can make plays, have them make plays. We have Ryan Wingo on a reverse. We got Golden with a one-handed catch. They're trying to get the run game going. That didn't really happen until the early second quarter. I thought early on Quinn Ewers looked a little shaky, especially in the pocket. He would step up in the pocket when the pocket was already collapsed, which didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. He kind of could have just stayed there, but I don't know. He started getting rhythm as the game wore on, but it just kind of feels like we needed the perfect Quinn Ewers game in order for Texas to win this game. As far as Ohio State started out, they're just taking easy throws. They knew that Texas wasn't going to allow anything deep, especially with Jeremiah Smith. So they kind of allowed everything underneath. Carnell Tate, Igbuka, the tight end, I can't remember his name, big boy. That's kind of what you need to do. I mean, I remember texting you, does Ohio State even run the ball? Because it just felt like they were like 90% pass, 10% run. You have two of the best backs in the country. We'll talk about them more later, but that was kind of my early impressions of the game. What about you?
Just stall drive after stall drive after stall drive. And that's what happens when the run game is not there. I mean, both teams combined for less than 150 yards on the ground. You're getting yourself into third and long situations pretty early on in most cases like that. What you were talking about in our preview was, hey, maybe it's going to be a guy like Carnell Tate getting that ball and kind of taking over this game. And I mean, that's really what he did for Ohio State. I mean, led the team in receiving yards with 87 yards off 7 catches, which exactly what you needed that man to do when Jeremiah Smith is getting bracketed the entire game. As for Texas, it was just kind of one of those. It had to be a Quinn Ewers game. You had to have a Quinn Ewers game. And I don't think Quinn played all that bad. I just thought that, you're going to go up against the number one defense in the country. There's not a whole lot you can do other than play perfect there. When your run game isn't going, I mean, it's hard. It is so damn hard to do anything. I would say near the end of that first half, it started to look like they were getting some momentum. Getting Jaden Blue outside, right up, easy house call. I mean, they didn't really have too many explosive plays. At least Ohio State, they had a few just break off and just boom. That just kills all the momentum.
I mean, it's pretty clearly the number one and number two defense in the country. Even though Quinn Ewers looks a little shaky, Will Howard doesn't look perfect. Both run games couldn't go in, like you said. Had to be more of a shootout style game, but also with a bunch of defense in the game. Like you said, with the halfback choice route, as I call it, because it's not just, well, the shark wheel. I call it the halfback choice because it's mostly the halfback's choice if you want to cut inside, outside, or keep going. That was some perfect calls right there. Texas looked like they were going to have momentum going into the half, and then all of a sudden, Ohio State hits the 75-yard Travion Henderson screen pass that goes for 6. And it was kind of stupid because looking back at the play, either the linebackers or the safeties blitz, and that would have, caused some guys to be out of position, which it looked like it was, because then all of a sudden Travion Henderson is going to the house for 6 with like 30 seconds left in the first half. All of a sudden momentum is not in your favor, and you let the number one team in the country be up 7 at the half. It's kind of a wild game just in general because it feels like these two teams are the best teams in the country. Let's get into the second half here. To you, what was the difference in the second half that kind of kept Texas away from tying the game from Ohio State.
Yes, I mean, early on in the second half, I mean, it was just three and out, interception, and then Texas has just a pretty long sustained drive, punch it in, tie it up, and now you're like, all right, hey, we got ourselves a ball game. Really is the same thing kind of going throughout that second half, but neither team could really get anything going other than one or two drives. And then all of a sudden, well, Ohio State ends up doing exactly what Texas did. They weren't even running the ball. It was just Will Howard, find a guy, one of us is going to get open. And they did the exact same thing Texas did. They burned off, 7.5, almost 8 minutes off the clock. And then they put all the pressure on Texas to go down and get something.
I saw a little bit of magic from the man, the myth, the legend, Quinn Ewers himself. I remember he had a little flip pass out to Jaden Blue right before he went down. That was a little cool. That was right before the second wheel route touchdown, like you said. I don't know. It just felt like Ohio State, whenever Texas scored a touchdown, they had an answer. And that probably comes from just like motivation and momentum and all these things that factor in. Like the entire defense, I think, is going to the NFL as soon as the season's over. It is what it is, but it also experience drives championships. Okay, like if you remember last year, Michigan had seniors all over this team. They obviously have the phenomenal season that they did. Now Ohio State has seniors all over this team. That was kind of my takeaway from the second half. Obviously, the huge play by Jack Sawyer. We can talk about that drive too.
I mean, it was one of those drives where, like, all right, hey, now Texas got their fight in it there. Get down to the goal line. One play call doesn't go your way, and it just changes how the game finishes out. I mean, people are talking about, oh, what a terrible play call. It's like so many teams run that exact play, lose 7 yards on it, and then you force the ball into Quinn Ewers' hands, and Ohio State already knows what's going to happen. They already know what to expect. They're like, hey, they're throwing this ball in that pocket, couldn't get it out. No one was open. Boom, Jack Sawyer comes in on the backside, strips that ball out, runs it back. Jubilation for Ohio State. That's how you win a football game right there. Then, like I said, final drive of the game for Texas, you're just in desperation mode, trying to get something, forcing throws that, that there's not really a window there, but you got to get something to even have a chance. And that Quinn Ewers throws another pick to Caleb Downs. And then Ohio State just kneels the clock out from that point there.
It's hard for me to place any blame on this game because I feel like, number one, I feel like Ohio State was playing like the best team in the country. Texas kind of gave it everything they had. We knew that Ohio State was going to be almost unstoppable. Okay, and in this case, they were, even though they were, a little more human this time around than they were the past few weeks. But I just feel like what we've gone back to after every single week, every single game that Texas plays, what are we always talking about at the end of the game?
Why did the offense not do this or that?
Exactly. It's the red zone issues. Why can't they put the ball in the end zone? And then it's, hey, you have Arch frickin' Manning on your sideline. You can actually run the ball. He did in the game on a 4th and 1 that got 8 yards. Okay. If you bring Arch in on the 1-yard line, it's a read option play. Defense has to account for it. All of a sudden, you have one less or two less guys stuffing you in the hole, pause, and then you have Arch Manning running around the backside. So,
one thing I want to go over is people always having to blame something on someone. This should have done this, they should have done that. It's like, you expect these guys to be perfect. Every single person on that staff, whether it's Sark, whether it's Quinn, whether it's the offensive line, defensive player, like, it's football. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. It's just either it's your day or it's not your day.
I'd also say people are mad at Quinn for how bad he's been this year. They're also mad at Sark for, I guess, the players not doing what they're supposed to. Like you just said, it's one player's going to win, one player's going to lose. It is what it is. Texas is still in a really great situation a year from now They'll have Arch. They'll have Isaiah Bond if he stays. You have all those running backs too that were injured. They'll get the red shirt year. You have Contavious Risner too. It's like you're still in a really good situation. It just sucks because you were in the same situation last year and it didn't work out.
You gotta appreciate what you've been given if you're a Texas fan. I know, like I said, obviously everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to win. I mean, coming from where the program was at, really before Sark came over and really got to build this program up, it is a drastic shift in results, in culture, and just the mindset of everybody in that program has shifted into a winning mentality. And you know that this is going to be on the thought of Sark and everybody in that damn locker room going into next year knowing, hey, we got some more stuff to prove. We lost the SEC championship, lost, in the semifinals. We got to get over this hump one way or another. And with the squad that they've got, Texas is always going to be reloading with talent. There's never been a doubt of Texas not having talent on this team. I mean, if you're a Texas fan, you've got to be excited. I know it sucks, but looking forward, fun times are to come in Arlington, Texas.
Texas might be one of the only teams to have a quarterback in place for next year. And I'm saying that because you have teams like Alabama who don't have Jalen Milroe anymore. At least he said he's going to the draft. Who knows if he actually is? You have teams like Notre Dame who with Riley Leonard, is he coming? I don't even think I think he's a senior, right? He's not coming back. All these other teams, Ohio State has to find another quarterback after Will Howard. Let's talk a little bit about the winner of this game. I feel like we kind of talked a lot about the loser of this game. Ohio State, absolute buzzsaw, had an answer for every single thing that Texas did. Has all the talent in the world, all the experience in the world, even with young guys like Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, who are going to be absolute anchors for you in the coming years. I mean, this team, obviously, we're not making our predictions tonight, but this team is absolutely en route to winning a title and looking like one of the most dominant teams to be doing so.
I mean, I'm just excited to see what they do. I mean, it's fun seeing this team play against elite defense after elite defense and seeing what can their offense do. What are we going to see? How are they going to exploit the opposing team? And it's beautiful. You got to enjoy this stuff while we have them right here in front of us. Because the offenses like this, the amount of talent on these rosters doesn't come around too often at this level that Ohio State is producing right now.
Obviously, we'll talk about this game more in a separate video this week. The national championship game being played on the 20th this year instead of like the 9th, I think it was last year. Monday night, we'll have to see if Notre Dame can make any defensive adjustments for this Ohio State offense. So we'll be previewing that coming up this week. We hope we'll see you guys there. We hope you guys like this video. Comment on this video. Let us know your early championship predictions. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We're not calling it X. As for us, that is Minx. I am Montana or Coach Bohr. Deuces.